Discovery and revelation. The vast emptiness of space between Neptune and Pluto had always been just that, empty. Until now. Commander Ellis Chen stared through the viewscreen of the ESS Horizon, humanity's most advanced deep space exploration vessel. What they had initially assumed was an uncharted planetoid was anything but natural. "Magnification, please," Chen requested, his voice steady despite the growing tension on the bridge. The object on the screen grew larger, revealing its true nature. A ship. A massive alien vessel at least 5 kilometers long with an angular obsidian hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Intricate patterns adorned its surface, pulsing with a faint blue luminescence. "Are we receiving any transmissions?" Chen asked, turning to his communications officer, Lieutenant Amara Wilson. "Nothing, Commander," Wilson replied, adjusting her headset. "It's completely silent. No distress signals, no automated responses. Life signs." Dr. Maya Patel, the mission's senior xenobiologist, shook her head. "None that our scanners can detect. If there's anyone alive on that thing, they're either in stasis or using technology that masks their biosignatures." Chen made his decision. "Prepare a boarding team. I want atmospheric samples, structural analysis, and a preliminary survey of any accessible areas. Full containment protocols." 6 hours later, Chen led a team of 12 specialists toward the alien vessel in the Horizon's shuttle. As they approached, the ship's enormity became even more apparent. What had seemed like decorative patterns from a distance were revealed to be complex, circuit-like engravings that covered the entire hull. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. Patel. "And terrifying," added Security Chief Kazuo Tanaka, checking his weapon for the third time. The boarding team found an entry point, what appeared to be a hangar bay with its doors partially open. Once inside, artificial gravity took hold, and the team's magnetic boots clicked against a metallic floor that seemed to respond to their presence, illuminating a path ahead with subtle blue lighting. "The ship is reacting to us," said engineer Eliza Santos, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's still operational, just dormant." The corridors they followed were massive, clearly designed for beings larger than humans. Everything was built on a scale that made the team feel like children wandering through an adult world. The architecture was both functional and artistic, with flowing lines and geometric precision that spoke of an advanced civilization. After hours of exploration, they discovered the bridge, a cavernous room dominated by a central pedestal surrounded by crystalline displays. When Chen approached the pedestal, it activated, projecting holographic interfaces that shifted and changed as if trying to calibrate to him. "It's trying to communicate," Dr. Patel said, stepping closer. "The system might be attempting to adjust to human physiology and cognition." Then, without warning, the entire room illuminated. A holographic figure materialized before them, tall, with 6 limbs and an elongated head. Its skin appeared translucent, revealing intricate internal structures pulsing with light. The figure spoke, its voice translated into halting English by the ship's systems, which had apparently analyzed the team's communications. "Visitors. New. Unexpected. Ship designation. Naviron. Purpose. Defense and exploration. Status. Abandoned. Reason. The consuming shadow." "What is the consuming shadow?" Chen asked. The hologram flickered. "Enemy beyond understanding. Devours worlds. Consumes minds. We fled. Could not defeat it. Ship compromised. Warning. Danger remains." "Is this ship a weapon?" Tanaka asked, his tactical mind already assessing potential threats and advantages. "Naviron is defender. Guardian of worlds. Failed mission. Crew fled. Self-preservation protocol activated." Dr. Santos approached one of the control interfaces. "Commander, I think I can access the ship's technical archives. This could give us insight into how it works." Over the next several days, the team made remarkable discoveries. The Naviron wasn't merely a ship. It was a self-contained war platform capable of harnessing stellar energy as a weapon. Its technology included matter manipulation, gravity control, and a propulsion system that could bend spacetime. But most concerning was what they found in the ship's memory banks. Records of a war against an entity described only as the consuming shadow, a force that had apparently devastated hundreds of worlds before the Naviron's creators, a species called the Velhari, had abandoned the vessel. They left it behind because it was compromised. Dr. Paddle explained during a briefing back on the horizon. According to these records, the consuming shadow somehow infected part of the ship's systems. The Velhari sealed off those sections and fled, believing the enemy might use the Naviron against them. "So we're sitting on a ticking time bomb?" Chen asked. "Possibly," Santos replied. "But I believe the infection is contained in the sealed sections. The ship's AI seems to be in a dormant state to prevent the spread of whatever this infection is." Chief Tanaka leaned forward. "Commander, I know what you're thinking, and I agree. This ship represents technology centuries beyond Earth's capabilities. If we could understand it, harness it, it could change everything," Chen finished. "But at what risk?" The decision wasn't solely Chen's to make. When Earth received their detailed reports, the United Earth government convened an emergency session. The debate raged for days, but ultimately, pragmatism won out. Humanity couldn't afford to ignore such advanced technology, especially with the growing tensions in the solar system as colonies on Mars and the Jovian moons pushed for independence. 3 months later, Operation Phoenix began. A fleet of Earth's finest ships arrived, carrying the best scientists, engineers, and military specialists from across the solar system. Their mission: to understand, control, and if possible, recreate the Naviron's technology. Dr. Santos led the engineering team, working tirelessly to interface human computers with alien systems. The challenge was immense, not just technological but conceptual. The Velhari thought differently, built differently, and their mathematics and programming languages reflected alien cognitive processes. The breakthrough came when Santos realized the ship's systems weren't purely technological. They were partly biological, responding to intention as much as input. By creating neural interfaces, humans could communicate directly with the ship, bypassing traditional controls. 6 months into Operation Phoenix, the team managed to activate the Naviron's basic functions. Lights flickered to life throughout the massive vessel, and dormant systems hummed with renewed energy. But their triumph was short-lived. As systems came online, alerts began blaring from the sealed sections of the ship. Something was stirring in the darkness. "It's the infection," Dr. Patel warned. "Whatever the consuming shadow did to this ship, it's still here, still active." Security teams rushed to reinforce the sealed sections, but it was too late. The bulkheads began to melt, corroded by a strange, shadow-like substance that seemed to exist between states of matter. "Evacuate," Chen ordered. "Everyone back to the ships." As personnel fled toward the evacuation points, Chen, Santos, Patel, and Tanaka made a desperate dash for the bridge. If they couldn't contain the infection, perhaps they could still learn something, anything, that might help humanity prepare for what was coming. On the bridge, the holographic interface materialized without prompting. "Warning: containment failure. Consuming shadow infection spreading. Estimated time to complete system compromise: 47 minutes. "What is it?" Chen demanded. "What exactly is this consuming shadow?" The hologram flickered, distorting. "Not entity. Not force. Other. From between. Consumes reality. Replaces with void." Santos was frantically downloading data to a portable drive. "Commander, I've got something." The Velhari were developing a countermeasure before they abandoned ship. They couldn't implement it in time, but the research is here. "What kind of countermeasure?" "A way to reverse the infection, to turn the consuming shadow's energy against itself. But it would require a complete reconfiguration of the ship's core systems." As the shadow substance began seeping onto the bridge, Chen made his decision. Download everything you can. We're leaving. The team barely escaped as the infection accelerated its spread. From the safety of the horizon, they watched as parts of the Naviron's hull began to darken, consumed by the spreading shadow. "We can't let that thing reach Earth," Tanaka said, his face grim. "We won't," Chen replied. "But neither can we abandon the most advanced weapon humanity has ever encountered." He turned to Santos. "Can we implement this countermeasure? Can we reclaim the ship?" Santos studied the data on her tablet, her expression shifting from doubt to determination. "Yes," she said finally. "But we'll need resources, expertise from all of humanity's best minds. And even then, it's a desperate gamble." Chen nodded. "Then that's what we'll do. Because if this consuming shadow is real, if it's coming, humanity will need every advantage it can get." As the Horizon set course for Earth, carrying its precious cargo of alien data and terrible warnings, none of them could know that the clock was already ticking. The consuming shadow had found humanity, and the war for survival was about to begin. Transformation and triumph. 1 year after the discovery of the Naviron, Earth had changed. The looming threat of the consuming shadow had united humanity in a way that centuries of war, politics, and diplomacy had failed to achieve. The Mars independence movement suspended its demands, and the Jovian Colonial Alliance contributed its vast mineral resources to the cause. Operation Phoenix had evolved into Project Prometheus, humanity's coordinated effort to turn the alien vessel into Earth's ultimate defense system. Dr. Eliza Santos stood in the newly constructed neural interface chamber aboard the Naviron, surrounded by a team of engineers and neuroscientists. The chamber was a hybrid of human and Velhari technology, translucent panels displaying cascades of data in multiple languages, while biometric sensors monitored the 12 pilots connected to the ship's consciousness. Neural synchronization at 78%, reported Dr. Maizong, the project's lead neuroscientist. "Better than yesterday." Santos nodded, studying the data streams. They had managed to contain the consuming shadow's infection by implementing a modified version of the Velhari's countermeasure, creating an energy barrier that isolated the compromised sections. But the shadow substance remained, held at bay but not defeated. "The drive core is responding well to the new configuration," Santos noted. "Power output is 62% of theoretical capacity." Commander Chen, now Admiral Chen of Earth's Unified Defense Force, entered the chamber. His once jet-black hair now showed streaks of gray, a testament to the stress of the past year. "Progress report?" he asked, his voice carrying the weight of responsibility. "We're getting there," Santos replied. "The ship can move, shield itself, and the primary weapon systems are operational. But the advanced matter manipulation systems are still beyond our comprehension." Chen's expression remained stoic. "We may not have much more time. Long-range sensors have detected anomalies at the edge of the solar system, distortions similar to what the Velhari records described preceding a shadow incursion." The mood in the chamber darkened. Everyone had hoped for more time. "How long?" Santos asked. 3 months, maybe less." Santos turned to her team. "Double shifts from now on. Focus on weapons integration and drive efficiency. We need every system at maximum capacity." The next 2 months saw remarkable progress. Human ingenuity combined with Velhari technology created something neither civilization could have achieved alone. The Naviron, now rechristened the Phoenix, had been transformed. Its hull, once smooth and ornate, was now augmented with human-designed weapon platforms and sensor arrays. Inside, the ship had been reconfigured to accommodate human crews alongside automated systems. Most impressive was the solution to the language barrier between human and Velhari technology. Rather than trying to translate alien mathematics into human terms, Santos and her team had developed a new hybrid language, a system of symbols and equations that bridged the cognitive gap between species. But for all their progress, the question remained, would it be enough? They got their answers sooner than expected. Multiple anomalies detected, called out Lieutenant Wilson from the Phoenix's communication station. Spatial distortions forming at coordinates 347 Mark 12. On the main view screen, the fabric of space seemed to tear open. From the rift emerged ships, dozens of them. They were unlike the Phoenix, angular and predatory, with hulls that seemed to absorb light. "Are they Velhari?" Chen asked, though he already suspected the answer. "No," Dr. Paddle replied, studying sensor data. "The configuration is entirely different. These are something else." The alien fleet assumed an attack formation, surrounding the Phoenix and the small human defense fleet. "They're hailing us," Wilson reported. "On screen," Chen ordered. The image that appeared sent a collective shudder through the bridge crew. The being was vaguely humanoid but wrong in fundamental ways. Its skin seemed to shift and flow, and where eyes should have been, there were only swirling voids of darkness. "We are the Void Heralds." The creature spoke, its voice resonating unnaturally. "You possess that which is ours. The vessel you have claimed carries our essence. Return it, and your extinction will be painless." Chen stood firm. "This ship was abandoned by its creators. We found it, we restored it, and we've contained your essence. We have no intention of surrendering it or ourselves." The creature's form rippled with what might have been amusement. "Your species is young, ignorant. The Velhari were ancient, and they fled before us. What hope have you?" "More than you might think," Chen replied, and cut the transmission. The attack began immediately. The alien vessels fired weapons that defied conventional physics, beams of distorted space that corroded everything they touched. The human defense fleet suffered heavy losses in the first exchange, their shields useless against weapons that bypassed physical barriers. But the Phoenix held. The energy barrier containing the shadow infection had been adapted into a shield that could repel the alien attacks. Santos had theorized that the same principles that contained the infection might protect against its source, and she had been right. "Return fire," Chen ordered. The Phoenix unleashed its arsenal, a combination of human kinetic weapons and Velhari energy projectors. The effect was devastating. 3 enemy vessels were destroyed outright, their hulls rupturing in explosions of dark matter and conventional debris. But the Void Heralds adapted quickly. Their ships reconfigured, developing shields that mimicked the Phoenix's defenses. "They're learning from us," Santos warned. "Each attack teaches them more about our capabilities." The battle raged for hours, a stalemate developing as neither side could gain a decisive advantage. The Phoenix's shields were holding, but power reserves were dropping. The human fleet had been reduced to less than half its original strength, while the Void Heralds had lost only a quarter of their vessels. In the neural interface chamber, the 12 pilots were showing signs of fatigue. The mental strain of guiding the massive ship was taking its toll. "We need a new strategy," Chen said during a brief lull in the fighting. "Something they can't adapt to." Santos studied the battle data, searching for patterns, weaknesses, anything that might give them an edge. Then she saw it, a correlation between the enemy ship's energy signatures and the infected sections of the Phoenix. "Admiral, I have an idea," she said, her voice tinged with both excitement and dread. "The consuming shadow isn't just an infection. It's a link. These ships are connected to the infected portions of our vessel through some kind of quantum entanglement. Can we use that against them?" Santos nodded. "If we drop the containment field around the infected sections and then immediately implement a modified version of the Velhari countermeasure, we might be able to send a feedback pulse through the connection." "You want to intentionally expose the ship to the infection?" Security Chief Tanaka asked incredulously. "Briefly, yes," Santos confirmed. "It's risky, but if it works, the feedback could disable or even destroy their entire fleet." Chen considered the plan. "What are the chances this will work?" "Based on the Velhari data and what we've learned about the shadow, maybe 60%. And if it fails?" Santos met his gaze. "Then we lose the Phoenix, and Earth loses its best defense. After a moment of heavy silence, Chen nodded. Do it, but have evacuation protocols ready. The preparations took 30 minutes. 30 minutes during which the Void Heralds continued their relentless assault, slowly wearing down the Phoenix's defenses. Ready, Admiral, Santos reported from the engineering section. On your command. Chen looked around the bridge at the faces of his crew. Human faces filled with determination and fear, but no surrender. Execute. The containment fields dropped. Immediately, the shadow substance surged forth, spreading across decks and systems with alarming speed. The ship's lights flickered, and alarms blared throughout the vessel. Countermeasure implementing in 3, 2, 1. Santos counted down. Energy surged through the Phoenix's systems, a pulse of brilliantly white light that raced along corridors and through circuitry, pursuing the shadow substance. When it caught up, the two energies collided in a spectacular reaction that shook the entire ship. On the view screen, the effect on the Void Herald fleet was immediate and devastating. Ships began to convulse, their hull integrity failing as the feedback pulse traveled through their quantum connection to the Phoenix. One by one, they exploded or collapsed in on themselves, creating tiny, short-lived singularities that winked out of existence. It's working, Wilson exclaimed, barely able to contain her excitement. But aboard the Phoenix, the battle was far from over. The countermeasure had contained most of the infection, but not all of it. Shadow tendrils still snaked through certain sections, corrupting systems, and threatening to reach the bridge. We need to complete the purge, Santos said, her hands flying over the controls. Admiral, I need to reroute power from life support to strengthen the countermeasure. How long can we last without life support? Chen asked. 20 minutes, maybe less. Do it. As the ship's atmosphere grew thin and cold, the final pulse of energy raced through the Phoenix. This time, the shadow substance retreated completely, forced back into the quantum realm from which it had emerged. Outside, the last of the Void Herald ships imploded, leaving only debris floating in the void. Enemy fleet destroyed, Tanaka reported, his voice weak from the thinning air. No survivors detected. Santos rushed to restore life support, and gradually, oxygen levels returned to normal. The bridge crew took deep, grateful breaths as the emergency lighting switched back to standard illumination. In the aftermath, as damage reports came in and casualties were counted, Chen stood before the view screen, gazing at the scattered remnants of the enemy fleet. Will they come back? He asked Dr. Patel, who had been analyzing the data from the battle. Eventually, yes, she replied honestly. What we encountered was only a scouting force, a fraction of their full strength. According to the Velhari records, the consuming shadow controls vast regions of space beyond our galaxy. Chen nodded, having expected this answer. Then we have work to do. In the months that followed, Earth reorganized its priorities. The Phoenix became the template for a new class of vessels, hybrid ships combining the best of human innovation with adapted Velhari technology. Colonies throughout the solar system were fortified, and long-range sensors were established to provide early warning of future incursions. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger, more dangerous universe, but it had done so on its own terms. The abandoned alien Starship, once a mysterious relic, had become the foundation of Earth's galactic defense, transformed by human hands from a forgotten weapon into humanity's shield and sword. As Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Olympus station, watching a fleet of Phoenix-class vessels on their inaugural patrol, he reflected on how far they had come. Humanity had not merely survived its first encounter with a hostile alien force. It had emerged stronger, more unified, and ready to claim its place among the stars. The Velhari had abandoned their starship in fear. Humans had forged it into the key to their survival, and perhaps, eventually, their dominance. The galaxy would soon learn what the Void Heralds had discovered at great cost. Underestimating humanity was a fatal mistake.